I've just picked up the Ego 56 volt multi-tool kit, and in this video I'm going to take a look at what comes in the kit and all of the attachments. So let's take a look at what comes in the box. So in here we've got our power head attachment, the line trimmer attachment, the hedge trimmer attachment, and the pole saw attachment. We've also got a 5 amp hour battery, a charger. We've also got some string for the line trimmer, an instruction booklet, and a shoulder strap. All right, so taking a look at the power head. So at the very far end, we've got the slot where the battery goes in and the brushless motor that powers the power head. Then moving along, we've got the first hand grip, which has got the trigger mechanism. And straight away, I'm not a massive fan of that. The safety release is this little plastic switch that you've got to push back. And normally with a line trimmer, I'd use a single finger on the trigger, but this is kind of leading you towards needing to use two to be able to engage that or to push it and then pull the trigger. And I think every time you release the trigger, it's going to be slightly annoying. Maybe just something to get used to, but I definitely prefer the trigger style where the safety release is on top of the handle. So when you grip it, it's automatically engaged. On the top, there's a digital speed controller as well. So that's just two limit settings. So a low and a high power. Then moving down the unit, we've got a carbon fiber shaft with a hook there for the shoulder strap and the spot for the handle to go. Then moving down to the very end of the power head is an aluminium fitting with a button and a mechanism to tighten it, and that's where all of the attachments fit into. In the box, there was also the secondary handle, which is a toolless install. It's also got this secondary handle, which I guess gives you a bit more flexibility if you're edging or using it in certain positions. It's a bit of adjustability there. You can set it to where you want it. Does feel like it's got a bit of movement though, even though it's been tightened all the way up. So with the power head, we've also got this battery charger, which is a massive unit. It's got a few indicators on the front there for the state of charge, which is nice. And then the 5 amp hour 56 volt battery, which is fairly weighty. The end of the battery has got a power button, which gives the battery status in 20% increments. So out of the box, it's come at 40%. And then the battery just clicks into the power head like that nicely. With the battery in, we can use the speed button to cycle through those two power level settings. And now let's connect up some of the attachments. So this is the 40 centimeter line trimmer attachment for the power head. We've got a carbon fiber shaft. We've got the power load button there, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then we've got the bump feed line trimmer head. The line trimmer attachment also comes with this plastic guard, which we can attach with the provided Allen key. Now that's all attached, and I should point out the line trimmer head does come pre-loaded with line. Something to note with this is the motor is obviously in the power head itself, and there's a shaft that runs through the center and powers this, whereas the dedicated Ego line trimmers have the motor down on the head itself. Now to connect this up, it's just a matter of taking off the cap and sliding this in. There's two little clips there and pushing it in to the red line and then tightening it up. And that is the line trimmer assembled. So straight away, I'm noticing the weight in that, especially at the power head end. And for comparison, I've just got my old 18 volt Ryobi line trimmer. It honestly feels like it's probably about half the weight. So I mentioned the power load button. I'll show you that in a second. And this is a bump feed head as well. A nice feature in it is the end of this head spins. So when you're bumping it, that can stop and it's not going to wear down the head as quickly. Now, some of the dedicated Ego line trimmers have a feature that's called Line IQ, which automatically feeds the line out and doesn't rely on that bump feed. And this does not have that. So the head on this can be released if you let the line come all the way in or it gets tangled or whatever. There's 2 buttons on either side. And I'm just going to pull this line out to show you the load mechanism. So now with the head completely empty of line, we can just feed the new line through here. Pull it through until it's the same length on both sides, like that. So with that the same length on both sides, we can now just push the power load button. And that'll load that line into the head automatically. Now you can also wind it in manually if you wanted to. I'm not sure why you would, unless for whatever reason that failed. So this is the 25 centimeter or 10-inch pole saw extension for the multi-head. We've got 1,050 millimeter aluminium pole. We've got the 10-inch or 25 centimeter chain and bar there. 220 mil oil reservoir for bar and chain lubrication, and an included multi-purpose Allen and flathead for the chain adjustment. Up on the end as well, we've got a bucking plate and a hook there for pulling branches down. And then on the opposite side here, we've got an Allen bolt, which you can undo to loosen the bar. And then on the inside here, we've got a flathead screw, which is for the chain tension adjustment. Also came with this plastic chain and bar sheath. The kit also came with this 76 centimeter aluminium extension pole. Now I'm not 100% sure, but you could potentially add multiple of these to achieve a greater length. In saying that, I think once you've added 1 or 2 of these, it's probably going to get a little bit unstable to handle. Now this itself feels quite light. It almost feels a little bit cheap, but I suppose you want to have that as light as possible to make it as easy to maneuver as possible. And according to the tech specs, it comes in at 1.89 kilos with the sheath on it. So to attach it to the power head, simply take the cap off, slide it into that coupler, and it clicks in, and then you can tighten this up. So I'm going to measure it from the center of the bar to the center of the back hand grip, because that'll give you an idea of how far your reach is. And that's about 1.8 meters. Now to take the pole saw off from the power head, just loosen that, push the button, and it'll slide out. So we can also add in the extension pole. And I have found this already, I haven't used it, but I've found it to be a little bit of a pain to connect this extension bar, whereas all the other attachments go in straight away. So tightening that up, I can then click that into there. Now to give you an idea of the reach that you've got with that additional extension bar, sort of going from the center of that bar to the center of the handle, we're at about 2.5 meters. So pretty decent reach. In terms of feel, it is a little bit sort of weighty with that extra extension pole in there. I guess not something you'd probably want to be using all day. So this is the 510 millimeter Hedge Trimmer attachment. We've got a 910 millimeter aluminium pole. We've got a plastic sheath over that. And we've got a 510 millimeter or 51 centimeter hedge trimmer. So these have got 12 different positions that you can lock it into, starting at about that, which is about a 45-degree angle, and then it clicks into each different spot down to that, which is about 90 degrees. So you've got about 135 degrees of different positions that you can set it in. This will apparently cut a 26 millimeter branch, which is about an inch or just over. Now to connect this to the power head, plastic cap comes off there and it just slides into here. Up to the red line, and you'll see it click into place, and then it can be tightened up. Now with that straight, I'm going to measure from roughly the handle to the end of that hedge trimmer to see what sort of length you're getting. So that's about just short of 2.1 meters. So that gives you a bit of an idea of how far you can reach with the tip of the hedge trimmer, just with the hedge trimmer attachment. And we can then put the extension piece in, same way. And then we can add the hedge trimmer attachment into there. And that locks into place like that. Yeah, that's getting definitely a little bit on the heavy side. Give you an idea of that total length now. So with that extension in there, about 2.8 meters. So that is the hedge trimmer attachment. And I reckon we go and test this out and I'll give you my thoughts. So this is on speed setting 1. And then speed setting 2. So that's the limit of it apparently. I've had a couple of months now to put the multi-tool kit to use, test the various attachments, and now I'm ready to give my verdict. I'll start off by talking a little bit about the power head and the battery, and then we'll move on to the various tool attachments. The power head itself is very ergonomic, comfortable to hold and use. I did mention when I was unboxing it that I had some concerns over the trigger mechanism, but as soon as I started using it, it just felt normal and natural. I didn't really have any issues with that. The foam handle on it, I think, has been a really poor choice. Mine's already starting to show signs of wear and tear, and it's only been a couple of months. So I don't think that that's going to stand the test of time. I think a hard plastic handle would have been a much better option. The extension bar that came with it as well is also not very good. I mean, it works fine once you get it connected, but getting it connected is a real pain. It's very fiddly, you have to wiggle it and twist it, and sometimes you got to pull the trigger a bit to make the end spin for it to click into place. I'm not really sure why, because all the other attachments with the tools have the same connection and they all slide straight into place and click in. but that extension bar I've found to be a pain almost every time I've connected it. On a positive note, the battery life is excellent. I've been using the 5 amp battery that came in the kit, and it has been more than enough for all of the different jobs I've been doing. Now, all the testing that I had in this video, plus some more, so using the line trimmer, the hedger, the pole saw, plus more, I still had 2 bars of battery left at the end of all of that. It is also super quick and easy to change out a new battery. It takes just a couple of seconds, so you're back up and running again if you do run it flat, and it only takes a short amount of time to charge back up. With the 5 amp battery, I've found that's about 35 minutes. So let's talk about some of the attachments, starting with the line trimmer. Honestly, this is one of the best, if not the best, line trimmers I've used. It's got plenty of power to cut long, thick grass that you wouldn't even normally put something like this through. It genuinely has the power of a 2-stroke commercial machine, but without the noise, the fumes, and the hassle. I really like the power load feature. One of my biggest gripes with line trimming is reloading the head, and the power load feature really takes the hassle out of that and makes it so easy. As for the hedger, I think that's a great quality tool. It's got plenty of power, it cuts well, and it does its intended job very well. I needed a pole hedger for some of my taller hedges, and this really fit the bill. Now, I had kind of been hoping I could replace my old 18-volt hedger with the pole hedger, but I quickly realized that that wasn't the case. The pole hedger is very good at what it does, which is doing tall, hard to reach hedges, but it's kind of awkward and heavy to do anything up close that you could reach with a normal hedger. Overall, it's a great tool. It cuts really well. I found that it cuts branches up to a finger width thick relatively easily, and it's got good reach and a good range of adjustments on the head. As for the pole saw, honestly, I found this one pretty awful, and that really surprised me considering how good the other attachments are, especially the line trimmer. I got this as part of the multi-tool kit, thinking it could replace my old 18-volt Ryobi pole saw, but I actually honestly prefer the Ryobi, which really surprised me. So my main gripe with the pole saw is how much vibration it carries through the whole tool when it's cutting. It's also really jumpy and jittery to use, which you can see in some of the clips that I got while I was testing it out. So overall, with the pole saw, it'll do what you ask of it. It's got plenty of power. It's just not particularly nice to use. And I think Ego kind of missed the mark with that one, especially considering how good some of the other tools are.